Welcome to Women in Leadership Talk, where you'll hear from successful women who are empowering other women with their stories of adversity, resiliency, and success. And here is your host, Vicki Bradley, founder and CEO of Women in Leadership Empowered.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women in Leadership Talk podcast. I hope you're having a fantastic day, no matter where you are calling in from or where you're listening from. It could be morning, afternoon, evening. So welcome to the show. Today, we are going to have a great conversation with Julia Haber. So Julia, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Well, we're thrilled to have you. And, one of the conversations that really struck me when Julia's name came forward was this decline we're having with internships and traditional career paths for our students, our Gen Zs, and how they're actually navigating the working world. And so Julia is the founder and the CEO of Home from College, which is the career and community platform that's built for Gen Zs. And they partner with brands like Poppy, Uber, Fabletics, Tangle Teaser, many, many more. And this helps students connect with meaningful projects and mentorships so that they actually can gain some experience. So Julia, thank you so much for being here. And we were just talking before we started recording, this is such a near and dear topic for me as well, having young adults and seeing some of the challenges that they're going through. So welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat through these topics together.
Awesome. So let's jump in. So talk to us a little bit about, who you are and what has actually, shaped you to take this journey and really supporting our Gen Zs.
It's funny. Sometimes I don't even properly recognize this origin story, but it is a meaningful through line in what Home from College has become today. But I went to a really non-conventional high school in New York, basically, where I graduated with almost 11 internships from high school. And it was a Socratic learning method school where you learn for the sake of learning. You have some traditional classes in a traditional setting, and then a majority of your learning is through experience. And that was so formative for me to learn even directionally what type of experience I wanted out of college. And when I got to college, I realized that actually that bubble had been popped. You still need to take Psych 101 and bio and all of these things to be successful in this construct of college, which is basically like A's and B's and tests. But I realized there was a lot to learn outside of the classroom that most students were not getting. And when I looked at my peers and other friends, actually, statistically, 90% of students graduate without ever having an internship. So it's a really jarring statistic when you think about how meaningful those early experiences are in shaping your career and what you bring to the table and what you're interested in and what you're definitely not. And that was a lot of the inspiration in an underlying state for what Home from College is, which is really a career platform that connects companies and college students together through what we call our gigs. Flexible, can be one-day projects, can be things that can convert full-time. For companies to really essentially have access to this emerging cultural workforce that not only impact business decisions for brands, which could be focus groups, product testing, brand ambassador programs, or traditional interns that are more flexible, not in a semester or summer schedule, or things that could convert full-time as well. And that's been a really meaningful process as we scale to, we're on our way to thousands of companies and well over 500,000 students on the platform.
Wow, that's amazing. First of all, I love that. And I love what you were talking about with regards to having those experiences, because I think that does, when you graduate high school, some students know exactly what they want to do, but most of us go through life and we have lots of different paths, lots of different journeys. And so that work experience really does help you sort of navigate to a particular type of industry or specialty.
Definitely.
So okay, well, let's talk about how students find you, number one. I think that's an important aspect. And how do they get involved with, the type of work that you're doing?
We built this platform to be 100% student first. So even from the very early days of business decisions about how do we create opportunities and what types of roles are appealing and what format do they look like, we build that hand in hand with students. So the key themes are that it's low barrier to entry, so you don't have imposter syndrome from a skill perspective, because we're not expecting you to be an expert here. And when companies come on, they don't either, which I think is an important level set, especially because about 85% of Gen Z is not on LinkedIn, so they don't have a ton of experience to show or a massive network. Like, we are the starting point. The gigs are always compensated, so you can come on home from college. It's completely free for students. The way you create a profile is by sharing not just what you've done, but who you are and how you think. Students answer questions that we call interview questions, or IQs, that are actual interview questions that companies ask in an interview. But we learned that most students don't ever get to the chance of an interview, so we wanted them to have a chance to showcase how they think even before a company talks to them. And then from there, students can apply directly, which typically shouldn't take more than 5-ish minutes to apply per gig. And then companies can review students on their own, message them, run the full program through our platform, and even pay them through the platform as well, which is a really helpful situation for people who are earning their first dollars and setting up their first bank accounts. We make it really intuitive and easy for them as well.
Wow, love it. Yeah, you said several things there that I think I need to really capture. So what have been some of those most critical learnings so far with Gen Z, and not just Gen Z, but like when you're entering that job market, like imposter syndrome you just talked about. I think that's a very real, but also you mentioned LinkedIn, right? And I see this even with my own kids, like they really resisted setting up a LinkedIn profile. They're actually resisting even the networking aspect of it. So I don't know if COVID impacted us in regards to that, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on, why you think they don't necessarily build their profiles out as much as they should be.
I think there's a number of factors. One, which is generational in general. They grew up in a world that started very early on with 9/11. And then you had a bunch of financial recession implications very early in their life. And then there was COVID, which is a really material part during a very formative socializing era where you are amongst peers in a traditional capacity, and the comfort and the underlying social cues that come in networking, I've learned, are things that most people don't know as it relates to Gen Z. I create content on TikTok about career advice, and the ones that get the most controversy are some things around sending thank you notes after an interview, or even having the appropriate etiquette on an interview and in a Zoom call. It's a big educational barrier, and unfortunately, schools don't have the bandwidth really to teach that well. Only 12% of students ever go to career service centers before they graduate, which is a wild statistic. And the career service centers can't service the thousands and thousands of students at these campuses in an effective way. So there are dynamics that cards are stacked against Gen Z, but I think also there is a challenge and a force that has been a bit cushioned, to your point, because of COVID and the ability to be a little bit more siloed as well.
Yeah. And what you were just talking about with the universities, like I always am saying, I just want to go in there and talk to third and fourth year students and talk about the importance of networking. And so I'm actually going to do a session next week at one of the universities here in Canada, because some of these students realize we don't know how and we're not comfortable. And so I was like, sure, I'll come in, do a talk, and we'll talk about how you actually network, how to use LinkedIn, right? But there's this fear I see that happens where even when you introduce them to someone, there's this hesitation to, even to your point, it's the etiquette with, how can you support me, or, mentorship. I think you talked about that, right? Your group is doing mentorship. A lot of the students just don't realize that we can open doors, but you got to walk through it.
Definitely. And I think actually one of the reasons we created this mechanism of the gig, which is, like I mentioned, very flexible, and companies will also work with typically 10 plus students per gig. So they're getting a lot of exposure to a lot of students, but simultaneously students, most successful students are doing between 1 and 3 gigs throughout a full semester. So those are multiple companies and touch points and relationships they can build, not only with their peers who are also in the gig, but companies who are constantly looking for them directly. So this is really like intended to be the warm handshake that makes it more approachable for you to know, okay, if I do this well, if I can send them an email in the middle of my gig and say, it's been so great working with you. I'd love to raise my hand for more opportunities in the future. Like those are small steps that can really help you be successful and teach those kind of reinforceable skills of what networking is without feeling scared about sending a cold message to someone they have no idea who they are and the fear of being rejected.
Yeah, well, and that's it, right? It's that fear of rejection. And so it's, you have to keep putting your hand out there. You have to keep knocking on the doors. You're going to get more no's than you get yeses, but a lot of people do want to support and want to help. So what are you hearing from the students that are actually, working with you? They're getting these gigs. Like, what's the feedback from them on how this is working?
It's been amazing. I mean, we have a Slack channel on our team called Love Notes, and we constantly get bombarded by students who are sending us messages like, this gig I got actually introduced me to the company that got me my full-time job, or I converted to a full-time hire here. I brought my 3 other friends in. I actually met some student at a pop-up we were doing in New York, and she came to me almost in tears saying, I was going to have to drop out of college because I couldn't afford my student debt bills. And I found Home from College, and I've been making over $2,500 a month using the platform for the last 2 years. And it's the reason I'm still here. And I actually have a job lined up. And those are the things. It's funny because we talk about it all the time from a business perspective, scale and people and not everyone's a number today on a spreadsheet that we track of success, but they're actually humans who are really having meaningful contributions to the trajectory of their life during one of their most anxiety provoking times. And it's such an honor to be part of that story for so many of them.
Wow, that's amazing. And those are great success stories. I'd be curious, like, what are you hearing from the employers? Right? Because this one I hear a lot is, oh, I've put in, hundreds of resumes. I get no response. And then on the other side of that, I hear employers saying, we can't get work. We need more employees. We need more skilled labor, whatever it might be. So what are you hearing from that side of the conversation?
I think what we've done really strategically from the beginning is that expectation setting of the quality of work, because people are not coming in to have someone who's going to code their website or do really complicated financial modeling. The expectation is if you're looking for that, then you should check out Upwork or Fiverr as a gig labor marketplace that has high skilled workers. Now, there is definitely an evolution we're seeing, especially as in the rise of AI and Gen Z becoming really proficient in AI tooling and prompt engineering and a lot of the skills that are actually easier for younger people to adapt. That is actually emerging as a category that's incredibly valuable for companies and how they use Home from College. But in general, we've set the expectation really well about what to expect from this audience. And then simultaneously through the platform, it's not just a mechanism of connection, but it's a mechanism of actually running the whole logistics for your program. So we've built in a task tracking system where you can assign tasks to students. They get auto-reminded, and they can have a content uploader where they can upload the work that helps the companies review it. So we see ourselves really as this translator between the two generations, because a lot of employers have issues in managing and dealing with Gen Z because they can be difficult at times and, again, don't understand all the professional nuances. But we've really invested in that mechanism of connection and then working together and feedback all in one place so they have the best practices to work with that generation too.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, that's that mediator, that role is so important because you are the bridge, right, between what's happening. And in today's environment, we have so many different generations working within organizations. And so understanding what motivates, what frustrates, like that becomes a really important learning for everyone, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think as well, there is a tension across a generational assumption based on a few interactions. So we have an archetype of companies that come on to Home from College who are previous Gen Z haters, where they come on and say, they're impossible to work with. I can't hold them accountable. The work isn't good. And it's a real product of saying it's not the full generation. There are people who need more support or are not as emotionally mature, but every student on our platform has a score in an algorithm that we rank them on, which shows their quality of their work, their response rate, their potential rate, a lot of the things that we evaluate basically to not only serve the best people, but the emerging talent. And that has been a really interesting experience for companies to actually be able to be more narrowly pointed on the type of person they're looking for and that level of skill as well.
That's awesome. No, I love that. Yeah, I just think about, even with AI, right? There's so many roles that are being eliminated. And I think if you don't dive into it, there's this fear of, oh my gosh, are there going to be any jobs, right? And you hear this, like jobs are being taken away. But from what I'm hearing from you, it's businesses are finding ways, opportunities for students to really become immersed into, the learning and the experiences of work.
Definitely. And there are 35 million young professionals every year in the US alone. So we're not even talking about Canada. They're not just going to disappear, even if AI takes their jobs. So what is your opportunity as a young professional to have a role or to have a story, to have a place in what the future looks like? It's funny the way we talk about AI now. I can imagine it was very similar to the internet, but we're going to see that we're going to have to adapt to it. So if you're a first mover in that way, it's going to be the best approach to set you up for success.
Well, and that's what you just said. That's a really great way to look at it, right? Because there were a lot of resistors to the internet. When www came out, everybody was like, oh my gosh, what's this going to do to our world? And I mean, you're already seeing like AI, yes, takes up a lot of energy, takes up a lot of resource, but it also speeds up. And that creativity is, so it's getting young people especially, but I think also older generations to embrace and really look at, how do you use this for the good, right? That's like the key is everything we're looking at is like, how do we make it good? How do we make it better versus the fear?
Definitely. And if this helps on 50% of your efficiency, what are you doing with the other 50% of your time? You're not
Right.
doom scrolling on TikTok. Maybe thinking about other things that you can do that supplement your life. I think there's already a huge generational trend that Gen Z wants to do multiple things with their lives from a work perspective. So maybe this allows you to be more of a freelancer or be this multi-hyphenate that allows you flexibility in that way.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. And there's this thing about maybe having a life, not just working, right? Having some
Definitely
balance.
important.
Having some
Important.
fun.
Definitely. We all
Yeah.
need that.
Yes. So tell us a little bit more about like how do the students find you, and how do they, like, are you an app that's on, the App Store? Like, how do they go about getting involved with the
Yep.
work that you're doing?
So most students will find us from social. We have a lot of organic content that students post about the best ways to make money in college or start your career. When we started very early on, we partnered with about 1,500 student organizations,
Mm.
and actually Women in Business was one of the most influential communities to start, but we partner with PAMHEL nationally, which is the Greek society as well. And then we have a lot of really, really strong power users who are high income generators who have an affiliate program as well. And that's been an amazing driver. And then the third bucket is from these companies who use Home from College. Many of them see us almost like their college bulletin board. So if you're brand that's doing a pop-up activation on a college campus, or you are doing a sampling moment, or you actually have an internship program, many of those companies will take a user base of people from an email distribution, or people that have come to an event, or people who have applied to internships for them, and upload them into Home from College and use them as their baseline community. And they'll have many more people who join, because when students apply to these opportunities, they join a brand's community as well. So it's a really interesting growth loop to help get exposure to different roles and bring on new students.
Yeah. Okay. Love that. That's like back in my day, we had college campus fair, right? So this is
Really
just taking
exciting.
that 100 times more.
Exactly. Yeah. In a digital format. And students, we have representation on almost every single campus in the US. So there is, because we don't partner directly with the schools, we position ourselves like the student's kind of like cool older sister, that we don't require you to even actually be enrolled in university. It's a flexible platform. It's a web app today, and there'll be a mobile app rolling out really shortly.
Very nice. Well, that was my next question. So how, I mean, you're definitely doing some great work. You're all across the US. What else are you doing to scale this business? And what's the plan for the next, couple of years?
We have been investing a ton in what the future looks like for the last, I'd say, like year and a half. We are about 4.5 years old. The first year was, okay, let's build this version of what we think it is. The next version was, oh my God, there are so many people that want and need this. And the third year was really thinking through how to recognize and support at scale, because scale is a very different story than one-to-one matchmaking. And we've built a very complex and really data rich tech product. We have a substantial team of engineers and data engineers who are not only just ingesting the information, but synthesizing it and creating more value for that connection piece, but also for the introspection story that students are learning about themselves through the platform. So we've been building out a number of tools. One that is an AI agent that runs a full program for a company. One of the biggest barriers today is that a company or an individual, it's very challenging to manage anyone in general, and then take on a group of individuals who are college students. It's a labor of love at times and not incredibly easy. So we've built this tool that can fully run, list an opportunity, answer a pain point that your company has, recruit the students, sign the contracts, and then actually get the work product out of the program, all through Home from College, which gives a lot of technical recommendations on the best ways to work with students. And then we've been building this AI career coach that we call the HFC Bestie. Essentially, that is a companion that helps students through a lot of the topics we were just discussing, which are how to be a professional person and how to respond well in an interview and which roles should you be looking at. And if this situation arises in the workplace, what do you do? Really thinking about what that next generation needs as it relates to skills and labor upskilling that we can provide through AI tooling and other initiatives, but as well as like the emotional, tactical, human pieces that do get lost when you think about scale.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Like I love the work you're doing. I think this is incredibly helpful. And it's like, how do you just get out there more so that, it's not just students, but how parents even know about you, right? Because that's also parents are at home going, oh my gosh, I can see my kid is, struggling, or, you were talking about COVID earlier, like how that really impacted the social skills, right? That maturity, because the kids, like you lost a lot of that because of what happened during COVID. And so parents are also, how do I help? How do I support my kids to get through this? So
Sure.
yeah, like it's a big one. And so Julia, what would be two or three things that maybe let's start with the parents. What would be one thing you would say to parents that they could do to best support their kids in, helping set them up for the future?
I think a lot of it depends on where your kid is mentally. What we learn in different phases of your student's college career, I'm just trying to survive. I entered this environment. I have no idea what is going on. And then the concern of, oh my gosh, does my major at all apply with what I want to do with my life? And that's actually a really interesting intersection point for us to come in, because a lot of times you come in thinking you want to be a sociology major or a bio major, and you learn through your own small life experiences that may not be the case depending on how it goes in the classroom. And knowing that it doesn't need to just be that you are successful in what you're learning academically, but you can supplement it. And that's a really great moment for Home from College, because it is past the I'm just trying to survive phase and into the I'm thinking about what my future holds and how I'm spending my time. And the easiest thing would be just to send them the Home from College link. We built the product not to feel like something that you feel like your parents are going to send you that you have to do when it's for academic credit. It's like a cool, interactive, very built for Gen Z eyes. So hopefully your child will think, wow, my parents get me, and they feel like this is actually something I do want to do rather than something I have to do.
Mm.
that's a big differentiator that we really focus on, so it doesn't feel so limiting and
Love
stressful
that.
as well.
Love that. That's actually really helpful. And from a student perspective, like you've navigated it yourself and you've created this, phenomenal, I would say, mission, and very purposeful. So what would you say to students who are trying to figure that out? Right? Because I think what you just said about, do I really want to do sociology or I get in for an arts degree? Like, what are some or experiences that you've had that helped you really figure out this is what I want to do?
I will never tell someone to not be an academically rigorous student or prioritize tests, and that's super important. But from my personal opinion, from a number of my peers I'm close with, if you have a 4.0 or a 3.6 GPA or a 3.1 GPA, it's just about telling the story of who you want to be as a candidate. I was never someone who knew I would be the smartest academic student in the classroom. And I found my superpower in advocating for myself and creating alternative ways to be successful. And Home from College is one of those ways you can do that, where if you said, I am a bio major and it's too late in my college career to switch my major, but I actually want to work in social media. And my resume really only just says all of the bio classes that I've taken in a couple student organizations. This is a great way for you to retell the story of what you want to be perceived as. And most people know that your major is not necessarily going to help you a tremendous amount in your first, second, or third job unless it is very specialized. So I think operating with a level of empathy for yourself, that you are in a phase of life that is very stressful and challenging and a whole lot of dynamics going on, but there are pieces you can control to tell your story. And one of those can be how you do outside of the classroom activities, whether it's clubs and organizations, internships, or even the opportunities that are on Home from College as well.
Nice, nice. Well, I love that. You're super inspiring. I will say that, Julia. So thank you. Thank you for sharing this. Anything we didn't cover today that you want to make sure that our audience is made aware of, or excuse me, or that they should be thinking about?
I think you hit it all. I think knowing that it's okay to start and that there is a place for that where you don't need to feel like you're an imposter putting a million experiences on your LinkedIn that you may not have yet. There's a beautiful place for that. But I think just taking baby steps and knowing that there isn't one magic bullet that's going to get you the job, and that you may have to send out 2,000 resumes, but there are also some strategic ways that you can build relationships with people, not at the moment you need the job, but for the multiple months or potentially years prior, so that you can set yourself up for success more easily through a platform like Home from College.
Love it. Love it. And Julia, if our audience says, oh gosh, I wish you would have asked this, where can they connect with you?
Yes, they can connect with us through Home from College, at Home from College across all socials. And then my personal TikTok is primarily where I do career advice, and it's Julia Haber on TikTok.
Nice, nice. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been super enlightening. Really, I truly love the mission that you're on and what you and your team have created to support, not just Gen Zs, but everyone that's, generationally that are coming through the ranks and trying to figure it out, because it is difficult, and knowing there's resources is so important.
Thank you. And I appreciate you sharing the mission and aligning from a value perspective, and
Of course,
to
of course.
continue chatting.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Well, thank you, audience, for being here. And I know that you're going to be taking away, especially if you have kids or if you're an employer looking for students, walking away with some really great insight into how you can best support, but also how to utilize this platform to help that next generation that's coming up into our working world. So thank you, everyone, for chiming in today. And also, if you have a young person in your home or you yourself want to spend some time understanding how you're showing up as a leader, you can visit us at Women in Leadership Empowered and take our free leadership quiz. It'll give you a lot of great insight as to how you're showing up in the world as a leader. So Julia, thank you again for joining us today. And we look forward to continuing to watch your success and also sharing your mission with our audience.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Take care, everyone. And we'll see you on the next Women in Leadership Talk podcast. Thank you for joining us for WIL Talk, sponsored by Women in Leadership Empowered. To learn more about our programs, please visit www.willempowered.com. We look forward to seeing you in our community.